If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram at @fitnessmama, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. So today I have a really great chat with a fellow physiotherapist. Her name is Sarah Cleaver, and in 2017, Sarah became the Australasian distributor for Solidea, importing a range of medical compression products for use during the pregnancy and postpartum period. So as I mentioned, Sarah is a physiotherapist. She works in a women's health physio clinic in Melbourne. She's got a lot of clinical experience and a lot of knowledge in this area. And she's also a mum to a 4-year-old. So in this episode today, Sarah discusses different support wear during pregnancy. So we really do have a chat about the different types of compression available for pregnancy and the different reasons why you might need compression or support wear for pregnancy. We talk about support wear in that early postpartum period, and then the different types of support wear which might be useful for weeks or months down the track after having a baby. So we discuss pelvic floor issues, prolapse, vulval varicosities, swelling of the legs, abdominal muscle separation, and then support wear for just general feeling better and recovery reasons too. So you're going to love this episode. So if you have got a friend who's pregnant, if you know someone who might benefit from support wear or who's been discussing support wear, then definitely send them this episode because I trust it'll be really helpful for them. Right, let's dive straight into it. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. I always loved having a chat to another physiotherapist.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to chat. So you have a beautiful brand, Solidea, that I have loved as a physio for years and years, and thank you for being a sponsor of the podcast for this month, and thought it would be a really good opportunity to get you on and chat about support wear during pregnancy and postpartum, because it's one of the most commonly asked questions I get. And I thought, you know what, you're the expert, you're a physio, you've got this amazing brand, so perfect topic to chat about.
Perfect.
How did you get into, how did you get into this line of work with physio? What made you end up taking Solidea on?
Well, there's quite a long story. I actually started working as a physio after following my mum into the profession. So I grew up in a house where she was working, and I saw how much she really enjoyed what she did and how much value she added to people's lives. And I thought, that looks like a really good thing to do. So then after lots of work, starting to become a physio, I ended up, after a period of time working overseas, coming back and finding myself in the women's health space. And that was in Melbourne, working at the Women's and Francis Perry. So I'm really lucky we've got a practice that supports women in Francis Perry when they're having babies and surgery. And then 7 years ago now, I was approached by the previous distributor of Solidea, having used their products clinically prior to that really effectively with my patients. This woman said she was moving overseas, and I didn't want women in Australia not to have the opportunity to experience the support that Solidea offers. So I took a big leap and took on the Australasian distributor acting rights to Solidea. And so I work now as a physio in the clinical space, but I also have this little business on the side, so that they really complement each other.
And they're very different. I know they're both in similar areas, but having a service-based business and then e-com is, So not many physios I know have that.
So it was a bit of a steep learning curve, and I'm still learning every day. But I think that I wouldn't have taken on this role of distributing compression wear if I didn't really see how helpful they'd been with my patients. So not only in the pregnancy space, but also in recovery. Yep. And then 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to experience pregnancy and recovery myself. And I think my appreciation for what the products can do really just blossomed even more from that point. Yeah.
Well, let's go into that a little bit more now. Let's first of all chat about pregnancy and we'll talk about compression wear in general, but how compression wear can support a woman during pregnancy in all the different ways. Yep. Then let's talk about it for birth, and then the more later postpartum recovery side of things. So all the different ways, and I love putting you in the seat here. What are all the different ways that compression wear can be used during pregnancy, the different type of compression wear for pregnancy?
I suppose most people come across compression wear during pregnancy if they're experiencing a problem. So that might be some back pain, or it might be some pelvic joint pain, or it might be something like some varicose veins or something that they've had previously that then worsen during pregnancy. So obviously, we're all very aware of the huge changes that occur to the woman's body during pregnancy. Not only the size change and the distribution of that weight as well plays a huge part. So compression can help to alleviate some of that extra weight of the growing baby in the belly. Particularly, I find the higher waist sort of products during pregnancy coming up over the belly can better support the joints in the back of the pelvis and the lower back. And then if we're thinking about some of the other options, the stockings and the leggings, which sort of go down the leg and some enclose the foot, then you've got that sort of graduated compression as well, which really does facilitate venous return and fluid movement. So particularly patients that may be standing a lot, who work as teachers or in retail, and they find at the end of the day that they're just getting sort of swollen around the feet and the ankles, that the support of a stocking particularly is going to be very beneficial, just to alleviate some of that not only the puffiness that you can see, but also the heaviness that you can feel.
And so if someone is getting swollen ankles and feet in pregnancy, let's say it's particularly at the end of the day, because I know you've got compression socks too. Would you recommend more the full length leggings?
I suppose it depends on how significant the swelling or the edema is. If it's something that is perhaps resolving after a period of time off their feet at the end of the day, then maybe the sock that's a knee-length sock would be adequate enough. But if they're finding that they're getting some generalised edema that might be affecting their whole leg, even upper limbs, and sometimes you can see it in people's faces as well, then perhaps the full-length garments are going to be better. I do definitely recommend the stockings for significant swelling because they've got a higher grade of graduated compression compared to the leggings. And leggings also are cropped at the ankle. So what you don't want to do is to end up sort of forming a sort of a tourniquet at the ankle where the leg's nice and supported with the compression, but then you get sort of a bulging in the foot beyond that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess just practically thinking, is it a 40-degree hot summer day wearing the full stockings versus the socks?
Yeah.
So, and practically you're going to wear the socks more regularly just because they're easier to put on and off? Or
But having said that, I've had patients in the past who have had really significant swelling and they've needed that extra compression more than just the compression sock. And they do go into the stocking because actually it makes them feel far better. And I think one of the other benefits is that the materials relatively breathable and sheer. So, having an extra layer on a 40-degree day, I don't think anyone's going to sort of say that they'd like to do that. But we do know that with the hotter weather, you're more prone to swelling. So that's actually probably one of the times that people do need to have some support on.
Yeah, makes sense. And if the benefits outweigh the cons, then bring it on.
Absolutely.
So you've mentioned a few times the compression wear, and I know that Solidea had the medical grade compression. Why is that so, I guess two questions. Why is that so important? And also, are there any conditions where women shouldn't have that much compression?
So the medical grade compression is basically just tested compression, and there's a grading system, and Solidea products are manufactured in Italy, so it does use the European grading of compression, but it's actually one of I think it's the grade that we most commonly use in Australia as well. So basically it's just tested, so we know exactly what level of compression that it is applying to the limb. And then there's different levels of compression, so grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and they increase in the amount of compression that they apply as the grading increases as well. Generally, for pregnant women, unless they have been recommended for a pre-existing condition by a medical practitioner to wear higher than grade 1 compression wear, the grade 1 compression is adequate. And that sort of is a bit of a segue into your next question, are there any contraindications or precautions? And I think we need to be mindful of women who have elevated blood pressure, because obviously if we're pushing more fluid back into their core, that's a consideration. With the lighter grade compression, I don't think we need to be worried sort of about sensory issues, unless that's sort of something that I'm more concerned about going into the higher grade compression products in the different ranges that we have. Yeah, I think the grade 1 compression's generally safe for most women, unless they have a specific medical condition, which obviously they have spoken to their treating obstetrician or doctor about, and in that case they would be very well aware that compression is not suitable for their condition.
Okay. This episode is proudly brought to you by Solidea, providing all of your pregnancy and recovery support needs. Solidea's maternity range supports your changing body throughout your pregnancy and the postpartum period. The proven compression and patented fabric helps to reduce back and pelvic joint pain, swelling and varicose veins, and it's safe and effective following vaginal and caesarean section deliveries. Solidea improves recovery from episiotomies, tears, hematomas, and after caesarean births. Made in Italy, Solidea's maternity range ensures pregnant women and new mums will look good and feel great. Recommended by obstetricians and physiotherapists, Solidea is offering 20% off using the code FITNEST20. That's FITNEST 20. So if you're in the market for some new support wear for pregnancy or postpartum, definitely go and check them out with the code FITNESS20 for 20% off. So visit www.solidea, that's solidea.com.au, and check them out for yourself, and the link is in the show notes. And to clarify, all your pregnancy support wear is grade 1?
Or less.
Or less, okay.
Yeah. So the pregnancy shorts are a lower grade of compression. The opaque pregnancy stockings, which are the ones that we sort of mentioned before, enclosing the foot for the varicose veins and swelling into the leg and the foot, they are grade 1 compression.
Okay, right. That's all been very informative. Let's go on to a few more different conditions that women might experience during pregnancy. So we've talked about aches and pains. We've talked about varicose veins. Are there any other conditions that support wear might be helpful?
So definitely in the space of pelvic joint pain. I think one of the the things that a lot of patients will talk about when they're experiencing pelvic joint pain, particularly pubic symphysis pain, is that really sort of sore feeling at the front of the pelvis. And they often feel a sense of relief if they actually support the area with their hand. And so, along with some of the other education that physios provide and use of ice and so forth, the compression of a pregnancy short is, I've found, very, very helpful for women experiencing pubic symphysis pain in particular. Having said that, though, all of my products have an inbuilt band that does give a little bit of lift to the weight of the belly across the front of the abdomen, and that does help lift the weight of the belly, so that can help to reduce any sway in the lower back and take the pressure off the posterior joints in the lumbar spine and the sacroiliac joints at the back of the pelvis as well. So,
and from personal experience, I remember having support wear during my second pregnancy, and it would help to alleviate those exact symptoms. You know, when your belly just feels so heavy and you feel like you actually physically need to hold on because it's all just dropping. And yeah, I think that's when some leggings shorts can be really helpful.
I was quite fortunate throughout my pregnancy to be quite fit and well for the majority of the pregnancy, and I was lucky enough to go to the factory in Italy during my pregnancy, and I think I was about 20 weeks or 19 or 20 weeks when I got over to Italy, and I just really had quite a little belly. It was my first and only baby, and the manufacturers who I met, who are all lovely and wonderful, said, "Have you got your pregnancy shorts on?" I said, "No." Well, no, not many people would even know that I'm pregnant at the moment. And they said, "Don't be silly, put it on." And I did. And from that period of time of the pregnancy, I started to get a little bit bigger, as you do. And we did a lot of walking on that holiday. And the days that I had those shorts on and walking around, I felt so much better. Just felt lighter in myself. And I just thought, wow, it's a real light bulb moment for me, thinking, I'm not even in any pain and I'm getting all of these benefits from wearing something supporting my changing body. And then you start thinking about, not only the size, but the hormonal effects that are going on in your body. And then that sort of, I was like, oh, so many people, like, if it was possible for every woman to have this experience, it would be amazing. And then, unfortunately, during my my last trimester and the last few weeks of my pregnancy, I slipped over and I had a bit of a fall, which was a huge shock to everybody. But I ended up getting quite acute sacroiliac joint pain from the fall. And so what I ended up doing at that time, so I thankfully knew that I needed to go home and put some ice on the joint straight away. And I already had my shorts on, but I did use a belt around my pelvis as well, just to give a little bit more localized support to that joint. And with that management of the shorts, the ice, knowing how that I needed to modify my movement so I wasn't, putting more pressure through the joint, and then that extra little bit of support with the belt, it took maybe, 2 or 3 days for it to really settle down. And then I was back to just wearing the pregnancy shorts, and I had them on until I was admitted to hospital.
Yeah. And no doubt you're hearing these stories all the time. Like, I remember making a comment to someone with my first pregnancy, which again was a good pregnancy, not like my second. But I could walk. I lived in Melbourne. We got the Botanical Gardens, and at the time I lived near the Botanical Gardens, and I could go for a walk around the Botanical Gardens, no problems. But I would get a bit stiff that evening. Nothing bad, just a bit stiff. And then one day I put my pregnancy leggings on, and I was like, I wasn't stiff. So again, these are all just single examples, but I think there is so much there is so much potential with these support wear. Now, I want to know, research-wise, is there much research proving what we've just been talking about, how amazing they are, or is the research still to come? Because I know sometimes the research is lagging behind.
I think, yeah, you're definitely right. There's not a great deal of research there. So I'm not entirely telling the truth. There's a lot of research for the benefits of compression. When we talk about the compression and use in the pregnancy and the postpartum population, I don't think there's a great deal of research because it is a really difficult period to do high quality research in. When you do high quality research, you obviously need to have a control group and a subject group, and it's difficult in this sort of period of a woman's life. There's some very good research in for other, uses of compression in other areas of soft tissue healing and so forth, which no doubt we'll be talking about a bit later on with the recovery. But I think, I've got lots of clinical experience, so clinical reports from patients who I've worked with over many, many years now. Yeah. Don't want to give away my age, but many years, and now personal experience as well.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to vulval varicosities. I actually don't even know how common they are. Do you know how common they are? Percentage?
I don't know, actually.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I'll look that up. But let's talk about painful. Them. So how can, or actually, if you, let's talk about what they are and how support wear can potentially help support with this issue.
So I suppose it's sort of swelling or enlargement of the veins around the vulva and the pelvic region, which is more common in pregnancy because of the weight of the baby in the pelvis. And it can be very uncomfortable and unpleasant for women to experience. And particularly with that area of the body during pregnancy, it can be a little bit hard to see what's going on. So I think for any patient of mine who complains of swelling or soreness around that area, definitely the first advice is to try and get the weight off their feet as much as they can, because that's going to alleviate some of that pressure. But if you've got a young family or you're still working and you're on your feet and you can't get your feet up to take the pressure off, then I think having something to help give you some compression and lift and support is definitely a really good option.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you put horizontal rest first on the list.
Well, I think compression is an adjunctive therapy. It's not going to be the thing that solves everybody's problems. Yeah. It's something that is a really good adjunct to often a lot of education, heat and cold therapy, at home
exercises, stretches.
All of those sorts of things. So, I think that's something that as a physio, I really I'm really keen to make sure that I'm not only pushing compression wear, and I certainly, when I'm in a situation with a patient, not every single one of my patients walks out with my product. It's only if there's a clinical reason for it. So I'm really physio hat on, and then, making sure that we're trying to help our patients and improve quality of life.
And if it is vulval varicosities that's the main issue, is it just the pregnancy shorts that you'd recommend?
That, I think, is the base product. So if the varicosities, unfortunately, if they sort of extended down into the leg beyond the mid part of the thigh, then I'd be recommending maybe the leggings or the stockings, because, again, with the pregnancy shorts, the style of the garment that I'm most familiar with, being the Solidea brand, they finish mid-thigh. And so you don't want to be causing an area on the thigh where you're sort of creating a blockage for venous return back from the leg. So if the varicosities are really localised to the vulval area, then the pregnancy shorts would be my go-to. But it would be very much a question that I would ask. And certainly if anyone was emailing me prior to purchasing a product, I would be making sure that they don't have any issues with swelling into the leg or varicose veins beyond the midpoint of the thigh, because we don't want to worsen what's happening below that point into the leg.
Okay, let's move on. One more thing about pregnancy I want to chat about before we go into recovery. Abdominal muscle separation during pregnancy.
Yep. So it happens to everyone.
It does, doesn't it?
It's amazing how many people
100% of women.
Yeah. But everyone's so scared because we talk about it as separation. And really,
it's
in
not a
most
great term.
instances, it's a stretch of the band of connective tissue, isn't it? So it's not often true separation, but we want to minimise it if we can.
Absolutely. And I think with abdominal muscle separation, we know that we can put more pressure into, like, there's movements and exercises we can do that potentially exacerbates it, and then there's movements and exercises we can do that can support that area and not put extra stress on abdominal muscles that are already stretched sort of to the limit.
And weakened.
So weakened, exactly, yeah. So again, your shorts don't cover the belly. So
yeah, they do.
Oh, they do. Oh, sorry.
Yep, okay. The shorts and the leggings and the stockings all come over the belly.
Oh, for some reason I thought they didn't. Okay. Well, that's perfect then, right?
That's why they help support the back and the pelvic joints, because they come up and hold the weight in.
Oh, okay. We might need to edit that out. I'm thinking of your competitor, which I won't mention, but they finish at the belly.
Yes.
So apologies. Absolutely. And this is why I like Solidea so much.
That's one of my key selling points.
Absolutely. I'm glad we brought that up. I won't edit it out.
Fair enough.
Whoops. Okay, so perfect. Because, there you go. You answered my question then. So shorts, leggings, perfect for abdominal muscle separation because it supports not only the abdominal area but also the pelvic floor area. We don't want to put extra pressure through the abdominals and cause extra downward pressure. We want to support the whole girdle.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, again, with your abdominal muscle separation, your education's really important for a woman. So making sure that they are transferring out of bed correctly, that they're minimising lifting where possible. If they are lifting, if they've got a toddler at home and it's impossible for them to avoid lifting altogether, then they're minimising that, and they're activating their core when they are lifting, and they're correcting with the correct lifting technique. And then sorry.
No, go for it.
Then I was going to say, and then the support where I feel like is a bit of, again, as an adjunctive kind of support. So it comes up over the belly, gives you that little bit of extra sort of support and compression, but also in a sort of a proprioceptive way to remind you that you need to be mindful of the way you're moving and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone listening, I will link an episode where I discuss abdominal muscle separation. And I've just suddenly thought it's probably a few years old, so it's probably time to redo. Nice, fresh.
There's been a bit of a change in research and evidence for the way that we exercise for abdominal muscle separation now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay, let's go on to birth and recovery. How can support us immediately in that postpartum period?
So I suppose I see women on a postnatal ward every week, and everybody's birth is very, very different. So if we think about what happens with a vaginal delivery, there's obviously some stretch of the pelvic floor muscles and maybe some stitches around the perineal area. And then conversely, if they've had a cesarean, then there's going to be some abdominal muscle trauma because of the incision across the lower belly. So I'm fortunate enough in my role, I work in a private hospital where the women have a 4 or 5 day stay. And so my education really early on is about the importance of rest. So getting feet up, rest time, definitely after a vaginal birth, some ice over the perineum. And then thinking about the benefits of compression and support as women start to get up and move around more, and particularly for discharge home. So I'm not sure where your question was going because I kind of sort of launched into a bit of...
Okay, so, well, it's been a little while since I worked in the hospital ward, but back then a lot of mums, they're pretty eager to put on their support vest straight away. But often we would say, the shorts can sometimes be a bit uncomfortable, the recovery shorts, or just say, they're tight. They provide support and compression.
Yep.
So generally I'd advise them to put them on from day 5. Like the day that they probably go home might be the day that it's a bit more comfortable to pop them on.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
I suppose.
yeah, lots of the rest and the horizontal rest, because they're not actually up and about much at all.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing is, so everyone's really different. So some women, you know, I'll walk in on our normal review days, either day 2 or day 3. And sometimes I'll go in and it might be a woman who's had a baby before and she's like, oh, I've already got my compression wear on. And she's quite comfortable. And other people have, you know, got their compression wear there and they're not sure, but perhaps, you know, they've had to have some fluids running through delivery, or maybe they had a little bit of swelling prior to birth and they need to let their body sort of diurese and get rid of all of that extra fluid, because if they put their compression wear on too early, it won't be comfortable. And then they'll think, oh, no, I don't want to wear that. So I think it's everybody's different. My advice normally is, you know, put it on when you're ready. Often that does, you know, it is around discharge day. If it should feel firm but comfortable, and if it's not comfortable, take it off. And then I think I had a cesarean, so I obviously had some recovery shorts ready to wear postpartum. But I actually used Tubi Grip over my Caesar wound probably for 10 days or so before I was really comfortable to shimmy into my recovery shorts. And that coincided with the fact that I did lose sort of any of that extra fluid that I had on board. I was far more comfortable, so I was ready to start to do more. So, you know, I wanted to have that support on for activity. And I then continued to wear the Tubi Grip at night for a period of time, because we don't recommend that you wear the recovery shorts in bed. And I just found that the Tubi Grip made me so much more comfortable transferring to get in and out of bed. And that sort of goes back to, you know, what we were talking about before with the abdominal muscle stretch or, you know, separation, to try to help that area recover, making sure that people are transferring and rolling out of bed is really important to reduce that strain through that connective tissue band. And it's quite uncomfortable to roll immediately after a Caesar. So that Tubi Grip was a lifesaver. And theoretically, I understood that before I had a baby, but when I've actually been through it now and I use that Tubi Grip, it was an absolute game changer. And so Tubi Grip definitely post-Caesar into recovery shorts, but a little bit later than often you go into them after vaginal birth. And then there's some fairly good evidence for compression for the 6 weeks until your GP or your obstetric checkup. But you can wear those shorts or that compression beyond that point if you're comfortable. What you might choose to do is just put them on for the periods of time that you're on your feet and you're more active.
And I can totally, having had 3 vaginal births, I can totally echo what you said in terms of once you've given birth, everything feels so stretched, and that feeling of having Tubi Grip or shorts on, it's quite supportive and almost has a comforting feel about it.
Oh, it feels like
I feel
a hug.
rather than everything's just hugging, everything's just hanging out, and it just feels so foreign. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. It feels like a gentle hug.
Yeah,
it just gives you that ability to sort of move around a little bit more comfortably rather than feeling sort of really bit kind of wobbly in your middle.
Yeah. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you've had a cesarean. Absolutely. The Tubi Grip might be more comfortable. It's easier to get on and off in those early days. What are your thoughts with using Tubi Grip if you've had a vaginal birth and you've got that weakness and that stretch that's occurred around the pelvic floor?
So for some people, you know, having high-waisted recovery shorts on is not something that they feel comfortable doing. So I think Tubi Grip is an option. It's not like we were talking before. It's not a medical compression. So we don't know exactly how much compression it's applying. So you sort of work on the basis that it's, you know, firm but comfortable. But I really feel strongly about women who have vaginal births having some support under their pelvic floor. Because I think if you're putting some compression on the abdomen and you're not giving any lift under the pelvic floor, there is the risk that pressure is pushing down on a weakened pelvic floor muscle.
Yeah.
So whether it's tubie grip and some firm fitting underwear, or probably that's the go-to. I suppose you're not going into recovery shorts.
Yeah, so I think if you can't go into recovery shorts for whatever reason, I think one or sometimes even two pads, and then really firm undies.
Yeah.
And again, that's why the horizontal rest is so important in those early days, because when we get horizontal, you don't have the downward pressure going through everything. So, you know, we've got the rest of our life to get fit and strong and active again. Whereas if everything's stretched, you could be the strongest woman in the world, but your muscles and the fascia, it's not just muscles, the connective tissue, all the sinewy bits, that's what's stretched, and that's what we want, that natural recoil to occur as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, 100% agree with everything you just said, Sarah.
I've also recommended, so often our patients now in hospital are wearing kind of the disposable undies as the first kind of garment that they put on. And I've actually suggested to a few people to put a pair of their other undies over the top of that. So sort of
they're floppy, aren't they? They're saggy baggies.
Yeah. But so similar to your sort of idea of two pads, two pairs of underwear is a go-to. Yeah.
Plus an ice pack. Pop it all in.
Get it all in and then get your feet up.
Oh, funny. Okay. Is there anything we've forgotten to discuss? I know we haven't yet gone into like post 6 weeks. Okay, that's a question for you. How long do you think it would be beneficial for someone to wear support wear for post like birth?
So I don't think there's one time frame that's going to suit everybody. I think, and I suppose one of the questions that I've been asked often, and I'm not sure if you have as well, is if you've got some support on, are your muscles not switching on, or are they not working as well? And so that's not right. Yeah. Having some support wear on is not going to switch off your muscles. I think you can use it as an adjunct to muscular activation. So I think that you can wear compression or support wear for as long as you're comfortable. I think that if you're symptomatic of any maybe incontinence or heaviness, prolapse symptoms, or pain, then you probably should be continuing to wear some support as you're working with your healthcare professionals to address the causes and make sure you're doing your exercises and everything. Yeah, I still enjoy wearing some support now. I find that if I've got a firm pair of active wear on or leggings on now, that I'm quite comfortable. So I don't think that there's a limit or a time frame.
No, I agree. And I think this is why postnatal rehab is also so important, because whilst your muscles are not yet strong, it probably would be helpful to have that extra support wear. But we don't want the support wear to stop you doing exercises, but also you might feel like it's more comfortable to wear your support wear until you feel 100% strong again. So, everyone's different. But I think you're right about wearing support wear as you're getting back to exercise. There's no harm as long as it's not stopping you from doing it. Yeah, makes you feel more comfortable, makes you feel more supported, kind of draws your attention to the areas maybe that you need to be thinking about. And it helps us feel more confident. I think we haven't used that word once yet. Like ultimately, it's all about feeling more confident and feeling like you're able to do what you want to do.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that we haven't really talked about is just making sure that people aren't putting unreal expectations on themselves to be getting back to, exercise by looking at what other people are doing. There's so much stuff on social media these days, and a lot of pressure that, I've had patients sort of experience and report back to me that they said, oh, but this person was running at this time, or everyone's different.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
Yeah, if there's something out there like, some of the things that we've been talking about today that can help or make you feel more confident in your body, particularly after the huge change that it goes through, not only with delivery but throughout the pregnancy, then that's a good thing.
I think that's a perfect place to finish. Was there anything you wanted to say to wrap it all up, take it home? Any last words of wisdom?
I don't know if there's any last words of wisdom. I just think that from my point of view, I like to make sure that I'm providing a really good service, whether it's physio service or if somebody's trying to buy a product from me. So I'm certainly not going to recommend something to somebody if I don't think that it's the right thing. And I'm really happy if people have any questions about perhaps some of the symptoms that they're experiencing or what they're trying to achieve, but with the use of their compression to work through that to make sure that we're picking the right thing. So hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it's so great having you, because so often we just spend hundreds of dollars on these products and we don't know if it's actually going to be helpful for us. So to be able to email you and ask about symptoms and, the options available, I think is really an amazing service that you do provide. So thank you. And on that note, I will give a little plug to your lovely offer for all the listeners. There's a 20% off discount code. Oh gosh, I haven't written that code down. What is it, Sarah?
It's Nest 20.
Perfect. FITNEST 20. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really great conversation all about different support wear during pregnancy and postpartum. Thank you, Sarah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including the discount code FITNEST20 for 20% off your Solidea. And there will also be details for how to connect with Sarah at Solidea. That's it, ladies. Have a fabulous day, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.